keeping people out.
Inclusion is behavior that embraces and leverages our differences.
Inclusion is a sense of belonging, connection, and community at work.
Diversity is being invited to the party, and inclusion is being asked to dance.
What does inclusion actually look like in the workplace?
It's seeing people that look like me in senior leadership roles.
It's recognition that I bring additional perspective and value to the team.
Where being my authentic self is celebrated.
It means recognizing all holidays, not just Christmas and Easter.
It's knowing that my years of experience are celebrated for the value I bring today.
Inclusion means recognizing that not everyone eats pork or drinks alcohol.
Caring enough to give me flexibility so I can focus on what's important to me.
It means not being judged for taking time off to be home with my newborn son.
It means not getting assigned extra work because I don't have young children at home.
It means not assuming that I don't want to learn new skills or participate in the latest technology.
At PSCU, we're intentionally working together to create an environment where ideas, backgrounds, and perspectives are harnessed to deliver possibilities for credit unions. Inclusion means everyone, including you.
And together, we are PSCU.
That's a nice definition, but what does inclusion mean to you?
Inclusion is intentionally bringing people in rather than unintentionally keeping people out.
Inclusion is behavior that embraces and leverages our differences.
Inclusion is a sense of belonging, connection, and community at work.
Diversity is being invited to the party, and inclusion is being asked to dance.
What does inclusion actually look like in the workplace?
It's seeing people that look like me in senior leadership roles.
It's recognition that I bring additional perspective and value to the team.
Where being my authentic self is celebrated.
It means recognizing all holidays, not just Christmas and Easter.
It's knowing that my years of experience are celebrated for the value I bring today.
Inclusion means recognizing that not everyone eats pork or drinks alcohol.
Caring enough to give me flexibility so I can focus on what's important to me.
It means not being judged for taking time off to be home with my newborn son.
It means not getting assigned extra work because I don't have young children at home.
It means not assuming that I don't want to learn new skills or participate in the latest technology.
At PSCU, we're intentionally working together to create an environment where ideas, backgrounds, and perspectives are harnessed to deliver possibilities for credit unions. Inclusion means everyone, including you.
And together, we are PSCU.
nice definition, but what does inclusion mean to you?
Inclusion is intentionally bringing people in rather than unintentionally keeping people out.
Inclusion is behavior that embraces and leverages our differences.
Inclusion is a sense of belonging, connection, and community at work.
Diversity is being invited to the party, and inclusion is being asked to dance.
What does inclusion actually look like in the workplace?
It's seeing people that look like me in senior leadership roles.
It's recognition that I bring additional perspective and value to the team.
Where being my authentic self is celebrated.
It means recognizing all holidays, not just Christmas and Easter.
I'd like to introduce Michelle Outlaw.
Thank you, everyone, for coming today. We appreciate you coming to the African American Credit Union Coalition Commitment to Change Credit Unions Unite Against Racism General Session. We're happy that you are here today, and we have a wonderful, power-packed audience today. We have a fabulous, wonderful panelist today. I need you to just sit back right now and grab your seat belts because they are ready to come. Today we have our Master of Ceremony, Miss Lauren Williams from CUNA, who will be serving as, again, our MC for today. She will give the housekeeping rules, and then I will come back to introduce our panelists. Lauren.
Thanks so much, Michelle. I hope you guys can hear me okay. Welcome everyone to day 3 of AACUC's virtual conference. I'm Lauren Williams, as Michelle mentioned, coming at you live from the Washington, D.C. area, representing the Credit Union National Association. I will be your Master of Ceremonies today, and I hope that you guys are having a great conference so far. We're only on day 3, and so much great information has been shared, and we really hope that you guys have been enjoying it. Before we get started, let's just go over a few housekeeping items and announcements. So first things, all sessions will be recorded and uploaded by August 24th. So make sure to mark your calendars. Just so you know, the recordings will be accessible the same way that you access the sessions through the conference center. So that same link that you've been using, be sure to bookmark that. So to maintain integrity of the recordings, please note that all participant mics have been muted throughout the session. So if you're looking for your mic, that's why it's not there. But of course, we want to encourage you to, as you have been doing already, engage in the chat, talk to your fellow credit union professional, and let's make this as interactive as possible, even amid the crazy times that we're living in today. So we will have time for a question and answer period at the end of today's session. But please use the chat to ask questions from the presenters, and we will be sure to pass them along to the session moderator, Ms. Michelle. So send your questions to the participant named, there's 2 asterisks, questions for speakers, and you should find them at the top of the participant list. If in fact you or we all experience technical issues during the presentation, please feel free to send a private chat to our tech team. Each tech team member has 2 asterisks in front of their names. We invite you to share your experience of the conference on social media. So make sure to use the hashtags CTC 2020, then also AACUC 2020, then hashtag changed, hashtag AACUC, hashtags CU_Unite, and hashtag CU_BLM or Black Lives Matter. So there's a lot of hashtags. Let's get active on social. Let's shake the world. Let them know what the great things that we're doing for the credit union movement this week. We also invite you to give us some feedback through a short survey at the end of the conference. So let's move on. Couple things we want to highlight from the donations for UNCF. So today, this is major, guys, major. AACUC presented an initial donation check to UNCF in the amount of $5,000. Our goal is to donate a total of $10,000. We plan to make a second donation on Monday, August 17th, so we're almost there. If you'd like to donate to UNCF, please visit the AACUC booth in the virtual exhibit hall, or you can donate directly on the aacuc.org website. Now, prizes, this is the good part, prizes. At the end of this session, there will be a drawing for prizes, you guys. They're donated by our awesome sponsors and exhibitors. And if your name is drawn as the winner, we'll be sure to contact you and arrange the delivery of your prize. So don't worry, I'm not gonna steal it, even though I probably will want to, because Renee has been giving away some really awesome prizes. So I'm a little jealous that I can't partake. And okay, last announcement, a huge thank you to our sponsors. We would like to thank our title sponsor, PSCU. As you saw, they had a great commercial before we got started today. And also today's sponsor, FIS Global, and all of our other sponsors. We thank you so much, the generosity for all of the sponsors and all the exhibitors, so that we can make this conference to you free of charge. You know, that is not an easy feat. So we are so grateful to our sponsors for making that possible. So please thank them. You know, visit the virtual booths, check out their booth, say hello, and make sure you give them a shout out and give them a thank you as well. So with that said, I think that concludes it for our housekeeping items. I'm going to turn it back over to you, Michelle.
Thank you so much, Lauren. And again, welcome to the Taking Action to Affect Change General Session. We have a phenomenal panel for you today. This is day 3. We've been having a great time all week, and this team is coming. They are the A team. And so I am honored to introduce our panelists. And they have presentations prepared for you today. So as soon as I introduce them, they will begin with their presentations. We have Maria Martinez. She is the president and CEO of Border Federal Credit Union. It's headquartered in Del Rio, Texas. Maria has made presentations at local, state, national, and international events on credit union issues. We have Felicia Lyles. She is Senior Vice President for Retail Operations for Hope. And in her role, she advances Hope's mission of expanding across financial services and tools in underserved communities across the Deep South. Third, we have Erin Parrish. She joins us from Durham, North Carolina. She is a cultural anthropologist, community organizer, teacher, and human-centered designer whose life and work center around the collaborative practices of building community, nurturing creativity, and fostering justice and joy. And then finally, we have Gary Perez, and he serves as the president and CEO of USC Credit Union. And they serve faculty, students, staff, and alumni, as well as underserved and underbanked residents and small businesses in the communities surrounding USC's South Los Angeles and East Los Angeles campuses. So panelists, we welcome you. We are excited to hear what you have to say. We know that you have great things in store for us. And so now we will start with Maria Martinez, followed by Felicia Lyles, then Erin Parrish, and Gary Perez in that order. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Michelle, and hello to the rest of the panelists. My story today begins with, there's a PowerPoint right in front of you. I'm going to be talking about affecting change. And so many of us as leaders out there, we must take action in order to affect change. There's 3 things that I'm going to concentrate on today. As a leader, I think that we must take action to affect change by engaging and motivating staff, and also by knowing our members and their needs and staying involved. So how are we encouraging our staff? I engage our staff by allowing them to express themselves in various ways, to encourage each other, to value themselves, and to acknowledge and recognize those that have done above and beyond, serving others and doing good. We empower our staff to express their feelings. Since the majority of us were reporting to work at our offices when COVID hit, our staff was encouraged to choose a wall. So I told them, I said, you go around the building, choose a wall within your workspace and get creative with it, expressing your feelings while sending a positive message to others. They all got together in one of our branches, as you can see here. They built a wall filled with random acts of kindness. The wall says, behind every mask is a purpose. And that is because we all as individuals can make a difference in someone's life, no matter how big or how small the gesture is. There will always be an opportunity to do random acts of kindness. Another branch built this tree with each employee's handprints, sending a message that acts of kindness leave a handprint in people's hearts. They also built another wall with a message of, we are together, even when we are apart. The staff was determined to send a message to our members in our community as they went through all this with pictures and written words, reminding us that pictures are worth 1,000 words. Our main office, they focus on making sure that quality service was still being provided to others. And in this wall, they feature employees performing good deeds and service that went above and beyond the call of duty. Our staff feels appreciated and engaged. During our Zoom weekly staff meetings that we started having due to COVID and restrictions and all that, I would draw 12 lucky winners. I assign each of those lucky winners a task. Each lucky staff was given a gift card, and with it, they were supposed to share half of it with another person. One group got to choose another coworker and buy them a small gift and deliver it with an inspirational note to tell the person why he or she was chosen. Another group was tasked to select a coworker's child to buy them a gift and write a special note to them or the parent. And then we had another group that chose a mom because it was during Mother's Day. And then we had another one, it was during Father's Day, they chose a dad. And then we had graduation seniors, so they chose a graduating senior and send a special message to them. It was just building confidence for them. Our intent was to keep our staff engaged and motivated. So we take care of our staff, and all of us together, and they will take care of our members. We must know who we are servicing and what their needs are. Our members deserve to be catered according to their needs, and we must take this into consideration. Their habits, and in many cases, the lack of access to resources or tools needed to transact business in a digital automated environment. We need to be more hopeful, more committed, and more dedicated to the basic challenges of living in a complex environment. For credit union leaders, this means we must spend time thinking and talking about the needs of our staff and those we serve, which are our members. Innovation, creativity, development comes from ideas fueled by our heart. And in serving our members, our staff got very creative in implementing special ways to still serve amidst the circumstances. We set up walk-up services on the first of the month using one of our drive-through windows. We had staff out in the parking lots educating members that had never used the drive-through canisters and showing them how to use them. Our employees were getting documents signed in the parking lot. I'm a true believer that in our industry, we are judged on how we treat the underserved. And we serve 13 counties in the area that are all underserved. In serving our members, we need to be fully human and pay attention to unfairness and exclusion and injustice. As for ourselves as leaders, we must remain involved to affect change. We should all have a checklist. So one of the things that I have jotted down here is one of them is to stay informed about our current events. I don't believe in my career I had been in front of the computer so much, reading articles and watching the news and seeing what else was coming up. I spent so much time doing this, and I'm still doing it. We have to expect change, and we have to arm ourselves with the tools to act. whether it will be digital, whether it will be with personnel, or whatever it is that we need to take action on. One of the things that I really, really enjoyed during this pandemic was the fact that I could still talk to others, even though I could not see them and hug them and kiss them and all that. But so I ended up joining a lot of chat rooms, and many of you probably have seen me out there. Some people started telling me, "Hey, Maria, you're everywhere on Zoom." Yeah, right. And it's because I really enjoyed, visiting with others. I'm a true extrovert, and I love, meeting people. So I joined all these chat groups, and I highly recommend it. I think I've gotten the most out of the chat rooms than anywhere else because I learned from each other. I learned from so many of our peers, and many of them were leaders in our industry, but many were not at the leadership positions yet. So we can learn from each other. Be compassionate and willing to accept the change. I think, on accepting change, we also need to look at the needs of everyone and the needs of every single minority group and the needs of everything that we're facing. Check on your colleagues, check on your friends, those friends that you used to go out to the bar with, those friends that, you used to see at all the conferences. Give them a call. The phones are still working, Zoom's still working. I think there's still a way to get connected. I don't think I've had so many calls in my life in just calling on people and people calling on me to see how I was doing. Be a responsible citizen. I mean, we have elections coming up. Let's get out and vote. Let's encourage others to vote. I always tell my staff, if anybody that's ready to go vote, especially on, before we have early voting, I tell them, I said, my Suburban is available. Anybody that wants to go, I take a carload, do that, take them to encourage them to go there. You have to have passion about change, just like we have passion about serving people and people helping people. Like many other organizations this year, we went virtual in many of our activities, including our annual meeting. We normally get about 400 people at our annual meeting. This year, we got only a handful through Zoom, but we still had it. Board meetings, scholarship reception. We do a lot of fundraising at our credit union to provide scholarships in the underserved community. And this year we did it all through Zoom. We selected scholarship recipients. We did it all through Zoom. And then we also have an annual golf tournament. Well, we couldn't have the golf tournament. But this year our board came out and said, you know what? You were not able to raise funds. Therefore, we're going to give you money so that we can still have scholarships in our community. So our board was very generous with that. And then our annual youth conference, every year, we've been doing a youth financial conference, and we bring in kids into our building and we keep them here for about a week. This year we did it through Zoom. And so we got a good response, not the response that we had, but guess what? We're gonna start doing them every quarter instead of annually via Zoom. So that just brought in a new opportunity. And then, of course, we adopted to change just, while still remaining involved in our community. That's the main thing. You have to remain involved. I want to thank you. Thank you for allowing me to talk to you today. I know you're going to enjoy the rest of the panelists. This is a good show. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address you today. And always remember that the choice is yours to make things better and to affect change. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to allow me to share about our work at Hope and how we're using transformational deposits to fuel Black economic advancement in our region. And so transformational deposits are simple, low-cost, 10 basis points deposits in the form of a savings account or certificates of deposits that allow us to continue to do our work at Hope in underserved communities. Through the transformational deposit program, Hope, this allows us to import capital, in turn deploy it in places like Drew, Mississippi, a small rural, majority Black Mississippi Delta town, to advance the economic mobility of residents through the mortgage lending, business loans, and other financial services that otherwise, if Hope was not present in that community, they would not have access. But the genesis behind the transformational push for us is that we have to go to market for our deposits right now. And we pay a premium to fund the demand for our loans because wealth simply doesn't exist in the communities that we serve. So we realized that if we bring our cost of funds down to the credit union average, for every $50 million, we could save $1 million a year. And then that reduces the need to generate $1 million in revenue, but also raise $1 million. And so you see a picture of our branch location here. So one example, Itta Bena. You know, I want you to picture a small majority Black town in the Mississippi Delta where you have a post office, a convenience store, Dollar General, and Hope Credit Union. The poverty rate is 42%. The median household income is just roughly over $20,000. The community only has an estimated 1.2 million in total community deposits. So even if Hope had 100% of market share, local deposits could only support 12 more home mortgages averaging $100,000, or us doing 2 small business loans averaging $600,000 in Itta Bena, Mississippi. So these transformational deposits for us is a huge way for us to continue to transport capital into these communities. And so early part of July, there was this huge announcement about the Netflix investing $10 million in Hope Credit Union through transformational deposits. And this was part of its $100 million initiative to advance economic opportunity in Black communities. And so Netflix investment, this serves as an example, hopefully to other corporations who are seeking a meaningful way to invest efforts to close the racial wealth gap, that this is an opportunity for them to do this. Netflix recognizes that investing in financial institutions that are owned or led by people of color are the most effective way to fuel economic mobility and prosperity for people and places from which typically wealth just has been extracted for generations. So through our work, Hope invests in capital-starved communities across the Deep South, home to 1/3 of the nation's persistent poverty counties. And so, you know, why Hope? Because typically, in addition to institutions led by people of color, being effective, but we're more likely to locate in Black communities, to lend small business lending, mortgage loans to people of color other than financial institutions that are not Blacks owned. And so another example, in the Mississippi Delta, a lot of our branch locations, we moved into bank deserts because the financial institutions that were located in those communities, they felt like these communities are not profitable, when in fact, when they were in those communities, they were not serving the communities. And I referenced Itta Bena in the previous example. And so the financial institution that was there, they didn't allow the community to come in to open up an account. They didn't allow the community to come in and to apply for a loan. They would require them to travel to another town, but they could come into that financial institution and cash a check. So Hope being present in these communities and giving them access to financial services is huge. And so, and when you think about Hope's membership, Hope is 80% of our Hope branches are located in majority Black communities. 61% of Hope member owners were previously unbanked. 80% are people of color. 2/3 are women. And 69% earn less than $36,000 annually. And so the work speaks for itself. And so we were just very fortunate to be a part of the Netflix investment, and that they were convinced with the work that we do every day that we can continue to move this work forward. And one way that we do this is through our Hope community partnerships. The partnerships, they provide strategic and focused community economic development training and technical assistance for our communities. And so in our markets, we have 7 towns that are participating in this partnership, 6 of which are located in persistent poverty counties, and 5 are located in the rural Mississippi Delta. And so the 7 towns have an average of roughly 3,900 residents. All are majority Black. So you're looking at 58% to 91% with high distress. And so they struggle with high poverty, chronic disinvestment, and a talent youth drain caused by the absence of opportunity. And just thinking about my previous example, when you have a lot of these communities, when they only have a post office, they have Hope Credit Union that's present there, but they may have a convenience store. There's not any opportunity for the youth, so they moved out. So our goal when we go into these communities is that we work closely with the municipalities, community stakeholders, and residents to identify high priority projects, such as redevelopment of schools, because a lot of these communities, their schools are underperforming, hospitals, grocery stores. A lot of these communities, not only were they bank deserts before we moved into the communities, but they also are food deserts. And so we also work with them to identify high quality, affordable housing. And so one perfect example of the housing is when we moved into Moorhead, Mississippi, which is another one of our small towns in the Delta. One of the first requests from the mayor was for Hope to tour a subdivision that was located outside of the town limits. And so Eastmore, a subdivision of substandard housing, many of the homes had caught fire from poor electrical wiring when these homes were built. And so when the mayor asked if assistance, Hope was able to import capital through grants and other funding to renovate these homes. And so as we're able to import capital into the places we serve, we want to do it in a way that addresses the community goals and what their aspirations are, because it's truly about what's important to them. And so when you look at Hope's products and services, you know, we offer your typical checking accounts, your savings accounts, your student accounts. But one thing about Hope is that we are a mission-driven organization that is focused on meeting people where they are. We provide people with the products and services, the tools that they need to create a better future for themselves as well as for their families. But one thing that we've identified, not just offering the products, the financial education. So we offer financial education one-on-one. We also do it in group settings, working with partners, our churches, our nonprofits, our schools, employer groups to come in and talk to their employees. So our staff really does take the time to listen to people and really understand their financial picture and what their goals are and help them build upon that plan. A lot of our members, they were unbanked. They didn't have an account before they came to Hope, or they were using a lot of the high cost providers. And so one thing about Hope, we offer second chance accounts. So individuals that feel like that they may have had a bad experience, they owe another institution, and they think, well, I can't have an account. That's not the case with Hope. We give them that opportunity because we do feel that everyone deserves to have access, not just to accounts, but affordable products and services. But also partnerships, again, have been key with us meeting people with where they are, because even working with organizations that work with those individuals that were formerly incarcerated that feel like they don't have an option and they're trying to get back out in the world of getting a job, but no one wants to give them an account. So, and if a person has a bad credit, no credit history, Hope utilizes factors like their rent payment, their cell phone payment when a person applies for a loan. So again, the financial education piece is a critical part of it, but not just telling people the things that they need to do or they should do, but having the products and services to guide that financial education. And so we also offered, earlier this year, we rolled out our small business loan program, because among our suite of products and services, we always think about what is it that we can do more to ensure that the Deep South reaches its full potential. So that means providing financing to small, medium-sized businesses, entrepreneurs, nonprofits that are ready to get to work in our communities. And so we implemented our small business program earlier this year on the lending, and we're continuing to enhance our small business account products. We had identified that our commercial lending products didn't reach as far as we needed them to, so we created the small business product to expand access to capital for those diverse entrepreneurs. So again, we recognize that we have to continue to be innovative when we recognize that there's an opportunity or a gap that needs to be filled to meet the needs of those that, quite frankly, they just haven't had access to the resources. And it's going to take the commitment from all of us. Hope is going to continue to do the work that we do, but it is going to take all of us to really change the economic and financial justice. So, but I appreciate the opportunity to share some of the work, and looking forward to some questions at the end of the presentations. Thank you.
Thank you. It's just such an honor and joy to be here with everyone today. Thank you for the opportunity to share this virtual space. And thank you to these panelists who are doing such hard work with so much heart. Y'all are just inspiring already and a tough act to follow, but I will do my best. My name's Erin Parrish, and I work for the City of Durham, North Carolina in our Office of Performance and Innovation. And I'm going to talk about a project that we did as part of a Bloomberg-funded innovation team to design a driver's license restoration program. And the way that these innovation teams worked were using data and community engagement to try and understand the root causes of big community problems and work with residents to design solutions that really fit their needs. So the first project that we worked on, the mayor and community leaders chose a priority area, which was improving economic opportunities for our justice-involved residents. And then we worked for over a year to design solutions around that topic area. So we spent about 6 months really doing a lot of qualitative research, just listening to the voices of people who were affected or involved in the criminal justice system. And we prioritized those who were justice involved, those who had lived experience of incarceration, but we also talked to service providers and employers and to criminal justice advocates and law enforcement. And from this process, a big part of this process actually also was hiring people with lived experience of incarceration. So that's always been a really important part of the design process for me. A lot of design is talking to people with lived experience, but I think it's really important to also monetize the lived experience by giving people jobs and training them to do the work. And so I don't know the right from left, but the person on the right was our community engagement coordinator, and he was trained to do the research and analyze the research. And so the next slide, you'll see what the research looks like. And it's really messy. You know, people's stories and people's lives are really messy, and part of the work of design research was getting comfortable with mess. And that's actually part of like where we are in our current state right now is how do we get comfortable with mess, recognize that that there's this mess, and see the patterns that emerge through that. So in this work, we went through this research process, this analysis process, and then from there came up with ideas from the research. And we came up with 400 different ideas of possible programs and solutions we could try to implement. From those ideas, we chose 10 to test and 3 to actually implement and are currently programs in the City of Durham today. And I'm going to talk about one of those, which is our driver's license restoration program. So in our research, we saw that the lack of a driver's license was a huge barrier to employment. It was a huge barrier to economic mobility. And we never would have gotten to the program that I'm going to talk about without doing that really in-depth research of listening to people and understanding what their problems were. If we had just assumed that we knew what the solution to issues with economic mobility were, we probably would have just designed a jobs program, which is great, and we did that. But we also did this driver's license restoration program because that's what we kept hearing from people, service providers, judges, justice-involved residents alike. So this is what we heard. So from the qualitative research, we heard over and over again this was a problem, and that really spurred us to try and get the quantitative data. And when we got the quantitative data, we got data from an employer from the City of Durham, and we found that 60% of our jobs required driver's licenses to get these jobs. And there were jobs that would be like interns, jobs you didn't actually need a driver's license for. So our own organization was preventing people from getting jobs because they didn't have a license and for no actual good reason, other than that's the way the system was structured. We also got from the Department of Transportation what the data was for the city for the number of residents who had revoked or suspended licenses. So we have 200,000 adults in the City of Durham, and out of that, 25% of our population, 50,000 residents, had suspended or revoked driver's licenses, and 80% of those were people of color. And so there was a clear issue of racial inequity around driver's license suspensions and having them revoked, and there were long-term consequences of losing your license. So through our research with the district attorneys, so we talked to a lot of different people, and the district attorneys really early on said, this is a problem and we want to do something about it. And they had actually already run a driver's license amnesty program before. And so they created criteria. It was anyone who had a charge that was over 18 months old, which meant you weren't going to pay the fine or fee, and was just a low level charge. So it was no DUIs, nothing that had caused any kind of physical harm to people. So they created this criteria, and had to happen also in Durham County. The district attorneys had created this criteria in which they said they would just dismiss those charges, and they advertised an amnesty day. And 24 people came to the court because nobody wanted to come to the courthouse, right? So traditional amnesty programs, they run for a really short period of time. It takes a day. You have to get to the courthouse. You have to be fine and going to the courthouse. You could be in long lines. And so we worked to think about what it would look like to do something different. There was an opportunity and a desire to do something different. So the basic design principles we took in designing this program is make it as easy as possible to get involved, make it safe, recognize that there are real well-founded deficits of trust, and shift the burden from the person who's going to use the program to the person who is delivering the program. So we had a trusted messenger, which was our community engagement coordinator, and we made it really easy to apply for the program. And we knew we could do a lot better, and this is what we did. So we made it super easy. All you had to do, we talked to the district attorneys and said, what is the least amount of information you need to be able to dismiss charges? And they said, we need a person's name, their date of birth, and their contact information. So we sent our community engagement coordinator out into communities and started advertising this program and said, hey, you know, if you've got a driver's license charge, all you got to do is text this information or email this information in. And the district attorneys and us, we thought we'd get maybe 200 people. Like, we thought if we could make it 10 times bigger, that would be great. We had 2,500 people who applied, and we had 2,000 people apply in 3 days. So that was over 2 weeks, but we cut it short because we couldn't handle the capacity of people who were interested. So it was great. You know, 500 people got their charges dismissed. It was a success, but we also knew that we could do a lot better. And so after that first round, we thought about what worked well and what didn't work well. So this was something that we tried really early on. It was like our second month at work, and there was a convergence of people who wanted to do this. There was an opportunity, and we did it, and that was great. But it was my boss's personal, well, it was his work cell phone, but it was like his cell phone that people were texting, and we were individually responding, and I was talking to people on the phone outside, and we just, like, there was no real order. We just kind of threw some stuff on the wall and got this massive response, which was awesome, and we learned a lot from that process. So we did a second iteration and thought about how we could improve this, and the next slide will explain that. So one of the really important ways of how we improved on this process was really doubling down on creating strong partnerships. So, you know, we had all the people who were involved who had power and discretion over this around a table thinking about what can we do to make this better. And through this process, we realized that the Administrative Office of Courts had all of the data that we needed to be able to do mass relief. And so we got access to that data. And if we were able to have access to that data, all we needed to do was put that eligibility criteria that the district attorneys had decided on and just wipe people's slates clean. And so that's what we did. So our first prototype, we had 500 charges dismissed, and our second prototype, we got 51,000 charges dismissed because we were able to just summarily wipe people's slates clean. Another aspect of this, so there's the district attorney who can dismiss the charges, but then there are judges who have the discretion to waive fines and fees. And the state laws of North Carolina were changing. So one of the reasons why we were working so quickly was there were a couple of judges who were about to retire, and they were like, we're gonna do this. We're gonna just like wipe people's slates clean. And it wasn't that easy. And we ended up having to create this pretty involved infrastructure that exists now, that we have 300 ability to pay cases come every 2 weeks. And so we're working to try and get through about 13,000 cases over the next 2 years. So this says 1.2 million was waived. I think we're closer to 2 million now. And you'll see the average age of these charges was 16.5 years old. These were not new charges. No one was going to pay this money anytime soon or ever, basically. Another challenge that we had, though, is how are people going to know, right? So we erased this from people's records, but they didn't know that they had even received that relief. So we figured out a way to work on notifying people. And we partnered with this wonderful group called Code the Dream, who created a portal for us that people could enter their information and see if they had received relief. And so anyone could put someone else's information in there as well. So I used to do a lot of work in the county jail, and I would go in and ask people, like, can I put your name in, and then see if they'd gotten relief, and then report back to them if they had. So it was pretty, yeah, it was pretty easy to use. And so then our next step was getting community organizers to go out into communities and say, hey, did you know that this thing exists? Did you know that you possibly have relief? And we used data to target the neighborhoods that had the highest concentration of revoked or suspended licenses. And we used justice involved organizers to go out and talk to folks. So, you know, in conclusion, I guess this presentation is kind of at a slant because I'm not part of a credit union, but I'm already hearing so many resonances of innovation, kindness, creativity, work with heart, work with justice, work that centers racial equity, and work that centers on how do we improve the economic mobility of all residents? How do we put more money in people's pockets? What's the kind of work that we can do to have people be freer? And that's really what a lot of this was about. You know, people were going 20 years without having a driver's license that didn't just have economic effects, but physical effects, mental health effects. And so, you know, the process is thinking about what happens when we center people's stories and make that the source material for the programs that we create, and the source material for people's own ability to be more free. And I think that is the point, is people are the source materials for what they need, and that it's our responsibility to create the innovative and creative and nurturing systems and solutions that allow people to thrive. So thank you very much for the opportunity to be here, and I'm looking forward to the next panelist.
Wow. Erin, as a 42-year credit unionist, I can say unequivocally, you are one of us. You have the heart of a credit unionist. Thank you for having me join this panel today. You know, when they asked me to join, I was so humbled. I was blessed to be a part of this. But you know, after listening to what Felicia and Maria are doing at their credit unions, what Erin is doing at the city of Durham, I'm starting to think that blessing has turned into a curse because I have to follow the three of them. But I'll do my best in that. I'd like to kind of take it in a different direction. My three predecessors talked about the great things they're doing in their respective communities. And while I'm proud of what the USC Credit Union is doing in its underserved community, I thought I'd take this in a slightly different direction and talk about how we might embrace the sixth cooperative principle so that we can work together to better help, better uplift the communities that we serve that need us most. So it really is a privilege to be here with you this afternoon. We're going to talk about maintaining the soul of the credit union. We're going to then shift into talking about how credit unions might work together to help finance the education of young people of all colors, but especially those in our HBCUs. We're going to talk about addressing this looming eviction and foreclosure cliff that we're facing now. Then we're going to take a page from the Iowa Credit Union League in Coopera and talk about some opportunities there. But at the top, most of us are dyed-in-the-wool credit unionists. And the notion of the 7 cooperative principles have been indoctrinated in us since our first day at the credit union. How wonderful now that because of the wisdom and the vision of the iconic Mr. Maurice Smith and the African American Credit Union Coalition, that we now have 8 cooperative principles. That 8th, of course, being diversity, equity, and inclusion. But today, I'd like to talk about one of the concepts that is perhaps least discussed, and that's cooperation among cooperatives. At the end of the day, I believe that credit unions are, in fact, better when we work together. As the NCBA, the National Cooperative Business Association, says, cooperatives serve their members most effectively when they work together. That's cooperatives across disciplines. In this brief presentation, we're going to talk about credit unions working more closely together, because we are, in fact, better together. So when we look at small credit unions, and when I started at the USC Credit Union, we were, in fact, a small credit union. We were $15 million in assets. I believe, with every fiber of my being, that small credit unions are the heart and soul of the movement. I've got nothing against. I have so much respect for our large credit union brethren. But those small credit unions, the majority of credit unions, they feel their members. They touch their members. They have a passion for their members. I still have a passion for my members, but you know what? I'm not on the front lines every day like I was when I was the CEO of that $15 million credit union. The problem, as we all know, and look at, I realize that you, like me, haven't attended a credit union conference in the last 25 years without a reference to the decline in the number of credit unions. So here's yet another chart that shows where we've come from, 22,000 credit unions in the 1970s to where we are now at just over 5,000. And it's kind of a parlor game. Where will we be in 5 or in 10 years? How many will be around? The problem is that it's not big credit unions that are going away. It's small credit unions. And what I'd offer is that we need to work together to help uplift small credit unions so that they can uplift the communities, largely the underserved and underbanked communities that they serve. So I'm not going to go through this eye chart with you, but suffice it to say, the small and mid-sized credit unions are facing truly existential threats right now. As you can see, the overwhelming majority of credit unions are under $50 million in assets. But look at the deposits that they have. Look at the loans that are outstanding. And then those are the first 2 columns. Then look over to the last 2 columns, or credit unions over 500 million. We are a fraction of the credit union community, yet we have the lion's share of the credit union wealth. We have the lion's share of credit union deposits. There's a good reason for it. The larger the credit union, the greater the scale. And with greater scale, we can reduce operating expenses. And if we reduce operating expenses, we can reduce our net interest margins. What does that mean? So much gobbledygook. What does that mean? If you have lower expenses, you can offer better pricing. And if you offer lower rates on loans and higher rates on deposits, then by definition, you're going to be more appealing to members and potential members. That's why, again, large credit unions are succeeding. So, the main solution to solving the dilemma of the small credit union is to merge. And, my offer is, let's not merge the credit unions. Let's merge the credit unions' back offices. Let's find a way that we can allow our dedicated leaders in small credit unions, our dedicated board members, to remain passionate about their members, to develop products and services unique to them, but build that same scale by way of working together in the back office. And look, as I say on the bottom here, this isn't a new concept. We've had the wisdom to marry our back offices, to create a shared infrastructure. We just haven't had the will to do it. My challenge today is let's develop that will to work together to help small credit unions help each other now, or to help their members. I'm going to switch gears now and talk about how we might apply the sixth cooperative principle to serving the education needs of our members. Education is our passport to the future, as Malcolm X says. And the reason is that tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today. And what we know as one of the nation's leading originators of credit union student loans over the last couple of decades, that we as credit unions are in the business of fulfilling dreams. And at least from my perspective, there is no dream more important or more life-changing than a college degree. And we all know, we've seen these charts. We know the value of a college degree. We understand the disparity between those with degrees. I'm talking about the wage disparity now, between those with degrees and those without degrees. And that void is not going to become narrower. It's going to widen, especially in the technology age. So what we need to do is to work together to enable a college education for all of our members. What we need to do, can we get the next slide, please? I'm sorry. This slide also shows, in a slightly different fashion, the disparity of those with and without high school and college degrees. It's shocking. So I don't think I need to make the case to this group that on balance, a college education is important for our members. What I would like to offer, however, is that we need to work together to enable a college education. We really need to understand that our members are receiving student loans, but they're just not getting their student loans from their credit unions. Let me say it again, from their credit unions. They're being asked to go elsewhere to pay higher rates at less favorable terms to finance their education, as less than 15% of credit unions in this country currently have student loans in their portfolio. We've got to do something to change that. This is something that's in the headlines. Certainly it hasn't been as featured in the last 6 months due to the health, economic, and racial injustice crises. But we all know that young people today are saddled with unprecedented amounts of student debt. Have they turn to their credit unions to help them with that debt? The answer, by and large, is no. And I offer that we as credit unionists, for the good of our members, can come together to create a student loan restructuring program second to none. That we can actually do well by our members and by our credit unions by way of financing the education of this generation's students and refinancing the crushing debt of those that can't buy homes, that are delaying marriage, that are delaying families, because nearly every penny they have has to go to servicing their student debt. So I would offer that it's both good for the credit union, again, and good for the member. When I say good for the credit union, I'd like for you to forget the headlines for a moment. Those headlines that say there's a 25% default rate on student loans. Those headlines that say that's the next debt crisis is student loans. Well, yes, student loans are a problem, but most of the problem is centered on federal student loan programs, guaranteed student loans, loans to for-profit, loans made to students of for-profits. Private student loans, unlike the rhetoric, performed exceptionally well. Look at these charts. These products actually perform better than your credit card products, by and large, than your other unsecured products. You can hold these loans in portfolio, and if you don't want to hold them, you'll still help your members by a way of originating them and selling them to others, or simply referring them to others. So please know that there is a place for student loans in your portfolio, especially if we approach it from a cooperative standpoint. Now I'm going to switch into using that sixth cooperative principle to think about what we might do together. So we've applied the sixth co-op principle. Make that all the co-op principles, to further the education of tomorrow's African American leaders. What if we did that? What if we, and just hold on for a minute, I know it's going to sound crazy, but what if we formed a new digital-only credit union, owned by and operated exclusively for the faculty, staff, most importantly, students and alumni of HBCUs not served by a credit union? We can do that. Now, I'm not talking about those great credit unions that already exist to serve a handful of our HBCUs. There's 10 to 15 of them that are doing a terrific job. They can continue doing that terrific job. But what of the other 30 or so members of the United Negro College Fund? What of the other 90 or so HBCUs that aren't served by a credit union? Think about what we could do together if we were to put this together. What would that credit union look like? Almost overnight, it would instantly be a low-income credit union. It would instantly qualify as a CDFI. It would instantly become an MD, a minority depository institution. It would be the recipient of money from government, from corporations like Netflix, from nonprofits. I'm telling you, this could be this. I get excited that I can't talk anymore. That's how crazy I am. But this could be something incredibly useful and important. And I wish I could take credit for this. I know that the good people at AACUC are thinking about ways to help the HBCs. People in my boardroom, people on our management team. I was brainstorming with a member of our leadership team, Miranda Pierfax, who also happens to be a board member of the West Coast chapter of the AACUC. And we said, this could happen. We could do this. And we can do some other things that I'll talk about a bit later. If we resolve to do this, what if we did it right now? Let's not talk about it. Let's not dream about it. Let's not say, gee, what if one day? What if we did this right now with the support of the AACUC credit unions? I think we get the support of the larger credit union movement. That'd be natural person credit unions, large and small. I think the NCUA would be all over this. I think our trade association partners would join in, as would our CU vendors. And of course, the HBCU community would have to be a part of this. But let's remember, it would be owned by them and operated for them. So, what if? Well, the final what is what if this is the most ridiculous notion that anyone zooming in today or any day in the last 5 weeks heard? It won't be the first time. If it is the most ridiculous thing, then I will have the distinction, my friends, of being the shortest tenured board member in the history of the AACUC, because I was elected an hour ago and I could very well be booted off the board tomorrow. So with that, I'd like to offer two things that I think we can do together. Our credit unions happens to be a credit union, a CDFI, an MDI, we're a Juntos Avanzamos credit union. We work with other CDFIs in South Los Angeles, and we're trying to solve what I think is a looming crisis. I think we as credit unions might benefit, and I know we benefit our members in our communities if we could find a way to finance, not over a year, but maybe over 3 to 5 years, the rents that have been missed during this crisis. Yeah, how in God's name can a person who's missed 3, 4, 6 months of payments, rent payments, be expected to pay that back on top of the rent they owe when the rent moratoriums end in some of our, maybe even most of our cities and states? They won't be able to do it. I say, let's get credit unions to step up on a cooperative level. Let's get CDFI money. Let's get corporate money and nonprofit money to backstop loans that will help people stay in their homes. Let's solve this wicked problem together. And then finally, I've long been a fan of the Iowa Credit Union League and of Coopera. What they've done is they've actually developed a playbook for credit unions that have a need to or an interest in doing better by and for their Hispanic members, but they just don't know how. And Coopera is a consulting firm that is operated under the banner of the Iowa Credit Union League. They do a great job. I think the African American credit union community can be well served by having the same kind of thing under the AACUC umbrella in helping those credit unions who, you'd say they woke over the last 4 or 5 months. They understand now that perhaps they need to do more, but just don't know how. Well, I think we can take a page from Coopera and present that same kind of playbook to them forward. So with that, I say thank you, and to any Trojans out there, fight on.
Thank you so much, panelists. I shared with the audience that it was going to be a powerful presentation from each of you, and looking at the chat room, I can see that they have enjoyed you, so thank you so very much. I know I learned a lot, and I'm sure we all did, and we can take away and build our communities in the markets that we serve. So now I have a few questions for you, and I'm going to start with Felicia. Felicia, what has been your most eye-opening lessons that you've learned in the past 6 months?
Hey, Michelle, I would say the most eye-opening lesson in the past 6 months has really been not to waste a crisis. We learned after Hurricane Katrina that versus running away, we needed to run towards the biggest problems of racial and economic injustice. And so we feel like doing that, by helping the thousands of people that needed assistance, we really came out stronger from a human and financial capital perspective on the other side. And we find ourselves right now in a similar moment. Right now, we're doing business like we never imagined the first part of the year. We've had to respond when we think about right now the small, and I talked a lot about, we just rolled out our small business program the first of this year. And so although we've had a commercial department, actually our commercial area was really the first part of hope when it started, but we knew that there was a gap. And so we've done over 3,000 SBA, the Paycheck Protection loans, since that program rolled out for over $85 million. Typically, we do 50 in a year. So that just tells you how significant the impact that we've been able to make in responding to the crisis that we are in right now. And a lot of these loans were largely to very small entrepreneurs of color that no one else wanted to serve, a black barber in the New Orleans area, Boys and Girls Club in the Black Belt of rural Alabama, Tougaloo College, one of our HBCUs locally in Jackson, Mississippi. And so we have to be able to respond. We've been able to, develop some loan programs. I know Gary just talked about the work in our Hispanic community. We developed a Power of Hope loan program for those individuals that did not, that with the I-10, they did not receive any type of stimulus funds. And so we developed a program to put $1,000 in individuals' hands that if they had an I-10 number. And so those are the type of things, like I said, we have to continue to be innovative. And when we have these crises, we have to figure out, okay, how do we respond? What are some things that we can do? And we'll find ourselves, like I said, when this crisis is over, we'll be better off on the other side.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. Next question goes to Erin. Erin, on the license restoration programs, is that something that you are working on scaling or packaging for other states to pick up?
Yes, so there are other states that have their own license restoration programs. A lot of driver's license laws are state specific. And so North Carolina has one of the harshest driver's license laws in the country. For when you get your license revoked or suspended, then your driver's license is indefinitely revoked if there's a failure to pay or failure to appear. And so what we've been focusing on more is scaling it up across the state. And so Charlotte-Mecklenburg is working on that, and that's our biggest city. And Chapel Hill is also working on that as well. So we have a couple of other cities in the state of North Carolina. I'm also involved in a cities and counties for fines and fees justice work. And so that's 10 different cities and counties and across the country. And several of them are working on driver's license restoration programs as well.
Great, thank you. Maria, the majority of your credit union group is Latino. How can you galvanize with NALCUP to affect change? And what message could you send, and how do you serve your community?
Thanks, Michelle. So as many of you know, I've been very involved with the NALCUP group. We started NALCUP as a network community. And just most recently, actually last month, we decided to reorganize NALCUP and to make it more like a national level. And so you're gonna be hearing more about that. Has a national association instead of a networking association. And we're learning a lot from the African American Council, and it's been amazing at the work that y'all have been doing. And I think it's been an inspiration for us to bring those services into the underserved and also into the Hispanic community. As you know, the community that I serve, it's basically 85 to 90% Hispanic in my area. But I also believe that the Hispanics are the majority right now of minorities. And if credit unions are not out there to serve them, somebody else will. And guess who's going to do it? The payday lenders. And they're already doing it, and they're going to them because they're giving them the tools and everything that they need, and they're doing it fast. But the best answer is credit unions, and I think we need to position ourselves to make sure that we do that. And that's where NALCUP is going to come in. I'm hoping that now that we're going to reorganize this organization, that we could be able to give you and provide you with tools along with Coopera, along with Inclusive and Juntos Avanzamos. And there's going to be a mixture of things, and there's so much interest. So we're very excited about that, Michelle. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. And that just shows what the partnerships can do together in living out our cooperative principles. Gary, what are your aspirational goals that you need to or want to bring into grassroots implementation? And how can we all work together to take our aspirational ideas to a grassroots level?
Well, what a terrific question. So look, it's easy to have ideas. It's hard to implement them. We all know that. But I'll tell you, if we wanted to start a digital credit union that none of us would own, none of us would be enriched by, but that would enrich, those HBCUs, their students, their alumni, and the communities surrounding them, we'd all be the better for it. And we just need a few hands to go up to say, I think this is something worthy of pursuing, we could start that credit union next month. If we wanted to collectively do student loans, there are some great partners out there right now that'll help you do student loans. Or we can start a new student loan QSO if we wanted to. That would be our shared back office to do student loans for those that aren't doing them, that don't have the expertise internally. And the same with this notion of creating a shared back office. We can, if we have the will, we can come together to share IT systems, share accounting systems, share collection and loan processing systems to reduce our costs and allow us to free more money to helping members.
Thank you. Well, I say, Gary, let's go. I'm receiving some text messages that say you have their vote. So as soon as this conference is over, I think we all need to get started on that. Okay, Aaron, as a cultural anthropologist, how do you begin to partner with credit unions to help in their membership?
You know, I knew y'all would ask me a credit union specific question that I would say, I have no idea. So, I mean, I might flip that question back to y'all. I mean, I guess to be specific about what a cultural anthropologist skill set is, maybe that might be helpful, is just the process of talk. Okay, so like the idea of getting the message out instead of payday loans, getting the message of credit unions out, right? So a lot of cultural anthropology is going out and talking to people and listening to people, and then understanding what are the patterns and the things that people keep saying over and over again that create messages that are really impactful for it. So a lot of anthropology is really similar to, I guess, like good marketing, right? So I think that would be a way, but you don't need a degree in cultural anthropology at all to do this work. I think it's all of the principles that I'm hearing of cooperative practices and going to meet people where they're at. You have those skills already, right? It's just packaging those skills, which you're doing already. It's continuing to package those skills, but always remembering that you have to keep talking to people and keep listening to people and keep understanding how you can refine a product, create a new product, understand what people's needs are. And that's a really hard thing to do right now because we're in survival mode, and that's real. But it is also a moment, like to what Felicia was saying, of not letting crisis go to waste. And what Gary's saying with his passion is it's a revolutionary moment, you know, and it's a moment where we can think big and dream big, and that the root causes of our country's destruction right now are emerging right now. And so it's up to us to think about how we can be part of the solutions. And I think that the people on this call and in this panel are part of the solutions already. So that was a really long response. It wasn't probably that clear, but I'd also say, you know, if you reached out to some local universities and asked some undergrad or grad students if they could partner, they'd probably be excited because it would be an interesting project to work on.
Great, thank you so much. Felicia, tell me or tell us, what are 2 or 3 obstacles that you face in terms of growth and profitability with working in a distressed community?
That's a really good question, Michelle, and it is a balance. You know, as we intentionally move into some of these communities that we know that the financial institutions left because they weren't profitable. For us, it really is about serving the people and serving the community. And some of that we do, you know, of course, you know, our loans, you know, we try to have competitive loans and really have a good balance of that. The transformational deposits is going to help offset that with, you know, bringing in some capital to help us continue to do the work that we're doing. But then also we offset some, you know, that with funding that we receive from organizations. But one thing that has always ultimately been our goal at the credit union is that we want to be self-sustainable. And so that is a focus that even when we go into these markets, we see where there are opportunities for these markets to be profitable. There, you know, there's challenges because, like we said in the Delta, You know, even if, you know, a whole community, 1.2 million, if we had 100% of the community, that's going to be the deposits that come in. And so just really balancing it out with staffing, operations, you know, you just have to figure, you know, kind of figure out that formula, you know, of what makes sense. But a lot of times we go into these communities recognizing that, no, there's not going to be a good balance, but it's the impact that helps us continue to get support, like instance from Netflix and other organizations that see how important the work that we're doing, and them being willing to say, hey, here's some funds to help you continue to do that work so that people do have access to just a basic savings account, to a checking account, people to be able to, you know, first-time homeowner where they never really thought that was an opportunity for them. But it's also about making we invest in the whole community. It's just not, you know, with most financial institutions, it's really about the accounts. We go in focusing on the people in the community as a whole, from the schools, from the municipalities, and we're really building up that whole community. And when we get that support, we in Utica, Mississippi, that's rural part of Jackson, Mississippi, when we went to that community, we actually had we brought in more members than the bank had customers, because we were giving people opportunity and giving them access. And so where we have found that in one piece, it looks like it's not profitable, the outcomes, it makes it worth it.
Great, thank you so much. I have a question coming in for each of you, so I'll let each of you take this question. And that is, what do you say are the major roadblocks that get in your way for taking action, and what do you do to describe it? So what are the major roadblocks that get in your way when trying to take action? And we'll start with Erin.
Why are you picking on me, Michelle?
Never.
It's North Carolina in the house.
Hey, that's right.
Right? I see you. You know, the first response I had to this was just the enormity of the system and enormity of the problem. I mean, all of the systems that we're working with and working against are large structures and systems for a reason. And so it's always easiest to go with the flow, right? It's easiest to go with a big bank. It's easiest to not engage community with what you're going to do. And that is frankly tiring. But okay, I'm gonna be real. I'm really aware of legacy and heritage and ancestors, and that where we are today is on the backs of others, for the good and for the bad. And that what I do to feel inspired is think about what would my ancestors want me to do, and what do I owe to others. And so that's what gives me inspiration. And it's like, these legacies are old, but there's also strength in the history and the struggle that got us to where we are today. And so that's what slows me down, and it's also what speeds me up.
Thank you so much. We'll move to Maria. What are the roadblocks that you encounter?
So Michelle, I would say for me have been more not having the tools to get things done. I think when it comes to, many people would say that roadblocks are maybe humans or people that you work with, but I really don't have that. I mean, I've been very blessed that my staff and my board have been very cooperative in the way we move things around to serve, especially the underserved. But sometimes not having the tools in place to, you know, provide the services that people need. I think that would be the major thing. Once, you know, this COVID thing happened, all this injustice, you know, that came across, you know, we started reflecting on everything that we've done in the past. And one of the projects that we have is to, you know, go more digital, but do not forget the human factor. I think that's very important, because I think the human factor is always going to be needed. Just like I need a hug from each of y'all right now, we're going to need it from everybody. So I think it's important that we have the tools, and that's all. What it is money. You know, you need the money. So now we need to concentrate on the bottom line, see how we're going to make the money so that we can put those tools in place. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Gary?
Well, Michelle, I think our movement, our system is rich with passion and commitment. we're a bit poor on resources, be it capital dollar resources, better, be it human resources, human capital. And I think what we need to do as a system is to get beyond the, hey, that didn't work mindset when we're talking about some new things. I know, look, there are so many people out there rolling their eyes because they've heard me talk about these same things so often. Say, when is he going to get off that cooperation among cooperative thing? But yeah, it might not have worked before. We've had some false starts, but we have some great examples of it working. And with the digital tools we have today, we can make it work. We can do what may have been impossible or difficult before if we take a fresh approach.
Great. And Felicia, what are your roadblocks?
Hey, I'll have to agree, definitely capital, we got to have money to do the work. But then also, and I agree with Maria around just systems, because being able to keep updated, from our online systems, and it may even be our phone systems. We're investing in a call center right now just because with our lobbies being closed, we're getting an increase of calls to our call center and just having the capacity, human capacity even to do the work. And that was going to be my last one. It's just capacity. We, especially at Hope, if it's to be done, our CEO charges us to get it done. And so, and we're trying to, now be everything to everybody because we just know how critical and important that work is. But you got to have people to do it, and we're fortunate to have a great staff and teams that when we're called upon, everybody pulls together to get it done. But sometimes it can stretch you. So I think, especially being a credit union, we don't have, we're small. And so, and we're doing the things that people need, and we know the reach that is needed, and it takes people to get it done. So I think, capital, capacity, and then the tools and the resources sometimes can be, and I'm not going to say a roadblock because we push through it, but it can be a challenge.
Great, thank you. So Maria, can you tell me if you could implement all the things that you're working on right now in your community, what would healing look like?
Oh, wow. Really good. I think there's so much need. Every community has a lot of need that I think credit unions, if we embrace ourselves with good partners. Erin mentioned a really good program, and Erin, I was taking a lot of notes on your program. There's so many things that we can do in our communities if we have the tools in place, especially if we can, for instance, let me just give you an example. In my community, the majority of the people may have a cell phone, but I can tell you that we offer e-statements, and many people don't get the e-statements because they don't have a computer at home. They have a phone, but they don't have a computer at home. So how are they going to store this data? So there's things like that even though I may have the tools in place to offer to the members, I may not be able to fully offer those programs because they don't have the tools to adapt themselves to them. And that's just a one minor example. When I was listening to Erin, I was thinking about the undocumented living in Texas, not able to get a license and not able to open an account with a license. So we supplement those things by accepting other sources of ID, such as matrícula consular, the Mexican passport, so there's other things that we adapt in order for us to provide the service, just like Erin, they did all this work in order to provide people with a license or to be able to even get a job. So having the tools sometimes does not do all the work. It's going beyond that because you got to understand the human factor on the other side.
Great, thank you. Gary, what is your process to determine what you're in control of to take and affect change?
Wow. Well, look, I'm very fortunate. I've been incredibly blessed to have a supportive board, a great team, and look, I get to play entrepreneur at the USC Credit Union. You know, I get to be a capitalist with other people's money. And the good thing about being a credit unionist in Los Angeles and South Los Angeles and East Los Angeles is that we know that we can work together, not just with other credit unions, but with other CDFIs in the community to affect change. So, you know, it's frustrating at times because look, sometimes our ideas are too big for our budgets, but man, is it fun? Is it fun to try? And as long as I'm here, I'm going to keep trying. Yeah.
Great. Well, as long as we're having fun, it doesn't feel like work, correct? Okay. Aaron, I promise you, I am not picking on you, but there is an audience question for you. Is there advice you'd give credit unions who want to include members, people with lived experiences as co-creators of new products, services, and policies?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. I think there's really basic things of just focus groups of asking people what their most important needs are and what the barriers are for meeting those needs. And then from there, trying to come up with ideas of what creative solutions could be to meet those needs. I'm a big proponent of testing early. So what we did with the driver's license program is we tested that like 2 months into what we were doing. And I think to Gary's point, there was a point about failure, I think, of like not being afraid to fail. If you've got something that's small that you can test and be okay if it, not look at it as failing, but look at it as learning, right? And trying something, seeing if it works, having members saying, okay, this isn't exactly working for me and this is why, or this would be better, creating some sort of space for people to offer their feedback and then see that feedback become something and then be part of making it become something better. I think totally fits the ethos of the work that you do. Also a very specific resource, IDEO, it's IDEO.org. They do human-centered design, and a lot of human-centered design that they've done has been around like creating banking systems in sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia, and they've got a really great design kit, a human-centered design kit that has ideas of activities that you could use that you could probably repurpose. And I've used them a lot and repurposed them.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, I cannot believe it is already 4:26 and we end at 4:30 promptly. Thank you so much, panelists. You have been phenomenal. There are many more questions that are being asked. We will do our best to answer some of those questions for you in the evening session. But at this point in time, again, thank you. I need to turn the service back over to Lauren Williams so that she can give more information and some gift giving. So Lauren, it's yours.
Thank you so much, Michelle. And thank you so much to our panelists, Felicia, Maria, Aaron, Gary. You know, your insights were just so profound, and I'm just so excited to have been able to MC this amazing session. I think we got the best session this week, I have to say. Don't tell anybody I said that, but you know, thank you guys so much. So let's give them a virtual round of applause. So silent, I know you guys, we can't see you guys, but I know you're clapping, you're typing and you're clapping is the same thing. So we appreciate you guys. And so before we conclude the general session, like Michelle said, and thank you to Michelle. How about Michelle? She's the awesome moderator. We got to give claps for Michelle too, right? We cannot leave her out. She's been doing amazing. And so let's move on to our prizes. So like I said, I'm not going to hoard the prizes. They are for you guys. So I'm excited about these though. You guys are lucky because I already have some Apple AirPods, but our title sponsor, PSCU, has generously donated another set of Apple AirPods. So if you didn't win yesterday, you have another chance today. And our winner is Craig Birchfield from Publix Employees Federal Credit Union. So shout out to Craig, very excited for you. Florida in the house, it looks like. Publix, I think Publix is a Florida-based grocery store, so that's awesome. And so we have another prize. Our second door prize is from AACUC, the amazing host of this conference, and it's actually a $50 gift card, so you can use that wherever you'd like. And our winner is Hazel May Overturf. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right, Hazel, from BQ. So congratulations. Don't worry, we'll contact you and we'll make sure that we get those to you. So someone will be reaching out to you to get your address information, all that. We'll get you taken care of. So just a couple of things before we wrap up. Membership. Hey, if you're not currently a member and you would like to stay engaged, we encourage you to join AACUC. I always tell people this when I interact with them. AACUC is not just for African Americans, you know, it's for all of us as cooperative partners to really take advantage of. So please go to aacuc.org. You can visit the AACUC booth through the virtual exhibitions just to find out more information about that. Next, guys, please visit our exhibitor hall. It's open until 6:30 this evening. Just please check it out, visit the booth. You know, I encourage you to make some postings. You can do some Q&A, but you know, we have tons of people who are just waiting to hear from you, wanting you to take advantage of that. So please be sure to stop by the virtual booth between now and 6:30. The women's chat is discussing the I've Got the Power and the men's chat on meditation. They both start at 6:30 p.m. today, so that's after you are able to drop by those virtual booths, don't forget. And then the Young Professional Summit, DEI and code switching begins at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's open to everyone. So not all young professionals, but it will be led by young professionals. So don't worry, we are not ageist here at ACUC. Okay, so we look forward to seeing you there. Don't forget, thank you again to our panelists. We truly appreciate all of you all for joining day 3 of the African American Credit Union Coalition's Commitment to Change Conversation Series virtual conference. We hope that you were inspired and empowered to make a difference. We encourage you to keep the conversations going. Don't let it stop here rather. Keep it going in your credit union, in your social circles. Just keep the conversations going tonight, tomorrow, in social media. Don't forget the hashtags that we used earlier today. And thank you again for all your support. We'll see you soon. I think I'm right at 4:30, Michelle. I think I did all right. Awesome.